Welcome everyone to the Ask Ken show. And today's date is December 28th, 2022, the last Wednesday of the year. Welcome, Kevin. This is going to be a great show this evening.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Merry Christmas, Ken.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And everyone who's watching, Happy New Year. This is going to be fun coming up, 2023. I'm excited for it. And the way that this Ask Ken show works, in case you're just tuning in now, is you go ahead and ask the questions to Kevin, and Kevin is going to see the questions come up, and then he can take the questions that are applicable, and then have me ask them to me. And then what I do is I will actually channel the answers. So we don't take like personal readings, questions like that, but anything you want to know about spirituality, anything you want to know about anything at all. Kevin has some jokes, something about my hair products or something like that. If you want to ask questions about me, that's fine as well. So, about business, running business, success, how to run a spiritual business, how to, what my day looks like, day in, day out, how I use channeling to improve my everyday life, which helps in all the areas of my life. How spirituality has totally revolutionized my life.
Do you channel what product you should put in your hair?
What about my product in my hair?
Do you channel what product you should use for your hair?
Well, I channel when I go to the stores, so I always channel everything I buy. So yes,
the answer is yes.
Yeah, I do, and whether it's consumables or toiletries or what kind of toilet paper. No, I'm kidding. But basically anything you can imagine, I channel like for foods and drinks and beverages, all that stuff. Because why not? When you can use channeling for everything.
Awesome. So when you guys log on, if you could say hi and what city you're tuning in from, we'd love to give a shout out to it. Ken, did you have a good Christmas? What did you end up doing for Christmas?
Yeah, tons of family stuff. We had a Christmas party in person at our place. We had just for local people. We had local people. We had an angel Christmas party that Kevin was a part of, and that one was open to the public. That was online through Zoom, and we had lots of participation and a whole bunch of games and prizes. And it's about building community, getting to know each other, and we had some couple winners. Someone won a contest with Kevin. Someone won with me, which was tons of fun.
Someone got a free reading from me. That was fun. It was a good reading too. I enjoyed it.
And by the way, if anyone's watching and would like a reading from Kevin, please book with him. He does it for services. So please, how would they do that, Kevin?
Go to my Facebook at Cavelli Channeling on Facebook. Click the book now. You can just look at my availability, and away we go.
Yeah, and if anyone would like to book a session with me on channeling training, I'll teach you how to take the channeling abilities you already have and improve them way beyond anything you can imagine. Then go to my channelinginc.com website, and you can click on book a session, or you can register directly for my workshops there. And they're fun, they're interactive, they're tons of like experiential things. My certification workshops come with like a 50+ page manual, so it's all formal official training that you get on channeling, and that's just level 1. We have levels 1, 2, and 3, and then the animal healing and communication course, which is like channeling level 4, plus a bunch of intro workshops.
Are you going to change that just to call it level 4?
I think so. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that. I haven't decided yet. I might keep the animal one and do an entire healing one. So I'm not sure about that either, like just entire 2 days, because I do have enough curriculum on that easily to just do healing training.
I was talking to someone about that, and then we said, can you actually do the animal communication and bring in the healing? It's you're condensing it. You could probably do the healing just a weekend of the healing one.
I have lots of plans coming up for 2023. I'm not going to announce too many yet, but there's lots coming, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I have lots of other plans that I'm working on first, and then after that, I have other plans for business and stuff like that.
Awesome. So. Well, we have a few people checking in. We have Anne-Marie Valencourt from Montreal. Woo. We have Mira Vidal from New Jersey, and Shelley Wasler from right here in Alberta. I want to say Medicine Hat. Ladies. I'm going to say it wrong again, Shelley. I get it wrong every time. Is it Medicine Hat? Yeah, it's Medicine Hat, not Lethbridge. It's Lethbridge.
So anybody who who is watching, please say hi and where you're from. We just want to say, give you a shout out and all that.
And if you
Uh,
have any questions, this is your show. Ask away.
yeah,
Just type them into the chat. And it's from Lethbridge, not Medicine Hat. I do it every time.
I do too.
Um, if you have questions for Ken, just keep them general. We're not doing mini readings tonight, but just keep them general and to do with spirituality, and Ken will ask them. I'm going to start it off because Ken and I talked about this at the end of the last show. It's been a whole month that this one's been dinging around in my head. So the first question, and Ken, I think you know what it is. Explain coincidences. Um, I'm going to say Rod at an expo, and you'll be able to understand what I'm saying with that.
Oh yeah. So one of the magical things that happen when you get really good at channeling and you start following your spirit guide's guidance, all these magical like serendipities, synchronicities, coincidences start to unfold, and it becomes a regular daily thing for you, like it does for me. So the example that Kevin's bringing up is that I did a spirit expo here where I live in Canmore, Alberta, Canada, right in the mountains. It's just beautiful. I had just moved here a few months before, and I'm like, you know what? I'm all about building community. Let's put on a spirit expo, and it totally rocked. Like you should see, we had an amazing turnout. Kevin was the DJ or
The
the
DJ.
MC, the MC, the MC of the thing, and he helped me tons. And then I had a whole bunch of other support from other people. And one of the ideas that came to me is get one of those, like, you know, those at the during like politics, and there's all the votes and all that,
The
the
sidewalk
elections.
signs.
Right, like they're called like lawn signs is what they're called. Get some of those custom made, and so I did. I ordered like a dozen of them, and I put them all around town here in Canmore, and I put them like on the sidewalks. I like had them set up so they're all like with big arrows. Spirit Expo this way, Spirit Expo that way, and all these signs. And then one of the gentlemen that happened to come across and saw the sign, and Kevin knows the story better than me because he was told the story directly. So can you take it over from here, Kevin?
So this gentleman, his name is Rod Peterson. He actually saw the signs. He was driving through Canmore, saw the signs, is relatively new to spirituality. Long story, but he decided, you know what? I'm by myself. I'm just going to go and check this out. Um, so many things had to happen for Rod and I to meet. Rod was downstairs. It was a 2-floor hall that we had rented.
We had the vendors upstairs, the psychics and the mediums in the basement. It was so cool.
And Ken was on stage. My job was, when Ken was on stage, was to man his booth and make sure that Ken stayed on time. For some reason, in my head, I went, I need to go downstairs. I listened. I don't usually listen, but I listened. I went downstairs, and long story short, ended up meeting Rod and have become very, very good friends with him. Again, it's so many coincidences had
Yeah.
to happen for us to meet.
Yeah. And even since then, because of the relationship that Rod and Kevin have developed, I'm also have developed a relationship with Rod, and then a whole bunch of other doors and opportunities have opened up for me. A whole bunch of doors and opportunities have opened up for Kevin. And that's just one example of the million examples of coincidences and how when you follow your guides, then watching them match. So what happens on a spiritual level is your spirit guides reside in the astral realm. Another person's spirit guides also reside in the astral realm. And between them, they're orchestrating, setting this up and moving the pieces and kind of like almost like pulling the strings and shuffling things in a very intricate way to allow these possibilities to occur. And it's just so wild what happens. And then when you follow your guide's guidance, sometimes you don't necessarily know why you're meant to do it until afterwards. And then in hindsight, you look back and you go, oh, that's why. And this is one of the biggest things I emphasize. I started my channeling level 1 with my students is I say, please, 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 I'm teaching you these skills. I'm teaching you how to channel your guides. Please follow their guidance. Because if I teach you all this and then you don't follow their guidance, then it's all for nothing.
Well, yeah, I think if I didn't listen and didn't go down the stairs, Rod and I never meet.
Right.
It's just that simple.
And if he didn't follow his guidance, which was, oh, look, what's this Spirit Expo? Like, okay, let me just follow the arrows and go to this thing. I don't even know what it's about, but let's go ahead and do that. So on both their their guides are both guiding them and directing them. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps now. It's
Goosebumps.
like,
I was just going to say that.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's the miracles of actually not just having this be a random kind of spontaneous or incidental kind of occurrence, but actually like a regular everyday, because it's intentional. You're following your guide's guidance every day, and it's just so beautiful and amazing to watch happen when it just occurs. And one of the things I made an agreement with myself back in the early days, in the early 2000s, is I said to myself, I said, I will never be like, I never want to get to a point where I don't find these miracles and these things just so amazing. Like, I want to keep that childlike enthusiasm about, like, every time this happens, I'm just like, whoa, that's so amazing. Whoa, that's incredible. Look at that. And I want to keep that enthusiasm because it really is magical and amazing. And to live your life like that every single day is just so fantastic. And then have the gratitude to be like, thank you so much. And thank you so much. And then more of it and more of it, and to do this on a regular basis is so fun and so amazing. You're on mute, Kevin.
I apologize. I muted myself. I was coughing and I muted myself. We have a question from Anne Marie. She says, I do a lot of marketing in my work and was wondering, do you channel information about what kind of content would work best for a business and things like that?
Yeah, so I'm constantly, like, on my phone, I'm constantly creating my own memes, and also I just find memes wherever, but I also create my own, and I'm channeling all the time with my guides as to, okay, what social media sites, how would I post it, what time of day, like everything from the intricacies of, and do that intentionally on purpose. Like, how can I maximize my marketing strategy? And it's not just social media. Like, it's about, like, for example, that Spirit Expo that I put on, that was all channeled, everything from beginning to end. And that's why I went off without a hitch. And we had an amazing turnout from a whole bunch of different provinces and states, and people came from everywhere to attend. So sometimes, like, I'm being guided to go to an event, and it's not necessarily about the event that I'm being guided to go to, but it's about the people that I'm going to meet there. And I talk to people everywhere. Like, I talk to people at the grocery store, online. I create my own events, like that Angel Christmas party, where I'm gathering people just because, and purposely trying to work with my guides as to what's going to get the most ROI, return on investment. And then another strategy for all of you business owners or people out there that are trying to build up your business is, don't put tons and tons of advertisements over and over and over again. People get turned off by that. So there's a strategy by a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. He's like a social media guru, and I really like his concept where he talks about where for every 9 posts you put out that are regular, like everyday kind of posts, then you put one where it's advertising about your business or your product or your service or your event or whatever's coming up. But don't over advertise, because that can turn people off, and then they stop following you or they stop getting notifications from you. So you want to always give really high value content, like things that are going to be engaging, things that make people think, people that, like, they look at that and they go, oh wow, that's interesting. And so if you follow me on any of my social media sites, or if you want to go to my YouTube channel, just look up Ken Lewicki on YouTube and you'll find my channel there. You'll see that on a regular basis I'm posting content, and the content is always value add content. So all my videos are like, oh, how to be a healthy empath, how to use channeling to improve your daily life, what are your spirit guides, how do you connect with them. So it's all value add stuff. So when they watch it, they're going to get some benefit out of it, and want to subscribe to your YouTube channel or whatever it might be, social media platform. So, like, everything doesn't have to always be value add. Sometimes I just throw some memes up there for comedy or just for fun, for intellect. But I do try to add some value add once in a while on purpose to really create a big following. And something that a big tip for those of you with marketing is always post every single day, no matter what. Every platform, if you don't post after a few days, they really do not like that. So you want to post on a regular basis, and that keeps your analytics up so that they're constantly showing your posts to other people. And just I also recommend, I was thinking about this today, where if you have a business that you're trying to start up, please get a business Facebook page, not just your personal page. Don't use the personal one for business. Even if it's a different page, like a different personal page, you always want a business page because you can do a lot more things with that. And the way that Facebook is set up is they don't want people using their personal page for business stuff. They want people using the business page for that. So they will promote the business page and give you more functions and other things that you can do with business pages that you can't do with your personal page. Very
Makes
important tips. So I hope
makes
you wrote some of those
total
down.
sense.
If not, rewind it and rewrite them down.
That's awesome. Here's a great question. Should I channel one guide at a time or multiple guides at a time? We always talk about we channel guides, but we don't get into specifics of it.
Yeah, I recommend for beginners get really good at channeling one guide, spirit guide at a time. So there's a technique that I developed. It's called multi-channeling because you channel multiple guides at the same time. That's pretty advanced stuff. I save that for the very end of my channeling level 2 workshop because by that time I've taken my students through a whole bunch of exercises in level 1, like a half a dozen in level 1, another dozen or so in level 2, where you get really good at channeling one guide at a time, and then you become really adept, really proficient at that, like, and build your skill sets. What I've noticed is that what happens is um, a lot of my students, what'll happen is there's constant noise around them with their spirit guides, so they can't make out, all this, who's what and when, where, how, and all that stuff because it's just so much noise. So one thing you can try, and I will suggest you do this right now if you want, is what you can do. So I'll walk you through a quick little process on this. So if you're watching at home, feel free to just go ahead and do this along with me. So 3, 2, 1, I'll get you to take a nice deep breath and go ahead and close your eyes. So nice deep breath. And then just relax and drop into your heart center. So drop into your body, in your heart center. Okay. And now staying in your heart center with your eyes closed, I'm going to get you to ask all your spirit guides to temporarily step far back, just temporarily. Never ask your guides to step back permanently, just temporarily. So go ahead and do this now. In your mind, you can go ahead and ask them to step back. And now, so your spirit guides, they reside in the astral realm, so they're constantly talking to each other. So without deciding who, let whichever one would like to come forward to step forward. So in your mind, just invite that one guide to step forward. Okay, now I want you to psychically feel around you in your room. And where might this one spirit guide be physically in your room right now? Good. Now lock in on this guide wherever they are physically in your room. Lock in on them. And then go ahead and increase your connection with this guide. Okay, now this is the process I take my beginner students through and get really good at channeling one guide at a time. And then from there, there's a whole bunch of exercises that I do after this where I teach them how to channel their guides at very high levels, advanced levels, how to get very specific, detailed, practical information, and how that guide is there to help them. Did they have a past life with them? What's their relationship like? Why is this guide here to help them? And what area of their life and what specific guidance do they want to give them? And it just goes on and on and on from there. But I do recommend doing one guide at a time, practicing getting good at that. And then later you can do multiple guides, but let's just do one at a time. Sometimes it's better to get kind of like construction or any kind of trade or whatever. You want to get good at the basics. And then once you get good at that and you spend some time mastering those skills, then you can always go from there and do more advanced stuff. But sometimes people want to gloss over the beginner stuff because they're so anxious to get ahead. It's like, what's your rush? Like, this is a lifelong journey here. Take your time, get really good at that. And in my channeling level 1 workshop, I take people through very they're strategically set in my workshops where it's Level 1, it's like, okay, we're going to do this first, and then we're going to get really good at this, and then we're going to do this next, and then this next. And they're all building blocks that are purposely set. And then by the time we get to level 3 and level 4, you look back and you go, oh, that's why Ken structured everything this way, as stepping stones to get to this more advanced stuff. So it's all done in a very practical, meaningful way. It's like trying to, teach a grade 1 student who's playing with blocks, try to teach them algebra. No, you're learning to count blocks and stack blocks and things like that. And then we'll get to that algebra stuff later, but let's just get really good at this first.
I always hated algebra.
What?
Counting blocks was way more fun.
It's so important, and you use it every day in your life, don't you?
Yeah. 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 Well, we'll skip that. Next question. Do souls and guides have a persona? Or I should rephrase that. Do souls / guides, because guides are souls, have a persona?
Yeah. Okay. So when I in my channeling level 1 workshop, because of popular demand, a lot of my students over the years have been asking about, past life regression. Can you take me through a past life regression? I want to, like, I've heard of it. I've heard of past lives. I don't know if I think I believe it, but I'm not really sure. So what I do is I have it standard. Everyone in my channeling level 1 workshop gets to experience what it's like to live a past life on this planet. And this way they get to experience it firsthand rather than just talk about past lives. I actually get you to experience it. So if you've lived many past lives over many lifetimes, is it possible that your spirit guides have also lived many past lifetimes over many lifetimes, like past lives? And the answer is yes. Most likely they have. And so the question then becomes is, okay, so if they come to you, let's say as a middle-aged male, with a beard and a hat and a suit, or kind of like, working overalls, and then, a certain kind of build, and their voice sounds a certain way, and the way that they picture themselves is a certain way, and their personality and their attitude and all that stuff. If they are choosing that persona, then why are they choosing that one and not one of the other past lives? And the reason is because your spirit guides, they know from the astral realm, they're a soul like you and I. In the astral realm, they know what you need right now the most in this lifetime. So they ask themselves, okay, how can I help this person? What past lifetime persona am I going to choose that's going to make the most impact? So in this case, you might need this male guide because he's going to help you with your finances and your business strategy, and all that stuff, and your work and your purpose and things like that. And then you might have another guide who's a female, and yes, she's lived many past lifetimes as well, but male and female, and all this. But why is she choosing to be a female for you in this season of your life as your spirit guide? And the reason is because she might be here to help you with maybe your relationships, and be more heart-centered and more open and kind and compassionate with yourself and with others and things like that. So that's how what capacity she's here to help you. So she'll choose that persona to help you with that area of your life. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Right. So what I want my students to do is I want them to get to know their spirit guides, each one individually, on a really detailed level. Like I call it, like I use the analogy of taking them out for coffee. So you don't want to just like, have them as an acquaintance or once in a while, touch base with them. No, it's like you want to take them out. You want to get to know them really well, sit down with each one individually. And that's why I recommend doing like I mentioned earlier, getting really good at channeling your guides one at a time. Because have you ever been like in a group setting where there's a whole bunch of people sitting around, and it's just not the same? But when you take them aside and you sit with them for, let's say, half an hour, and you just take them for coffee and you get to know them one-on-one, you get to know them on a much different level than you would in a group setting. Well, it's the same kind of concept with your spirit guides. You might take this one out for coffee, like metaphorically, of course, you sit on the couch, connect with this one guide, really get to know them and their personality, how they're here to help you, any messages they want to give you, what your past lifetime might have been like if you had a past lifetime together, all that stuff. Get to know that stuff really, really well. And then maybe another day, take another spirit guide out for coffee, sit on the couch, connect with them, invite them, and you'll notice that they're completely different. The first one compared to the second one, compared to the third one, and so on. But get to know each one individually, and taking that 5-10 minutes on a like at the very beginning and getting to know them really will pay off dividends in the long run, because then you'll know when you feel a spirit guide coming, you go, oh, that's Betty, and oh, that's John, and they might have names, they might not, because a lot of spirit guides don't care about that stuff, but some do. And either way though, it's like, oh, this is my business guide or my career guide, and this is my relationship guide, she's here. And you'll know the difference because they're totally different, distinct, what I call energy signatures. And
Usually when my relationship guy shows up, I am always like, what did I do wrong now?
so that's pretty much many times throughout the day, or
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
So another thing too is, if you're tuning in, please type a question, type a message. I don't know if Kevin was going to say that.
I was literally going to say the exact same thing.
Go ahead, take it away. So how do they participate in the Q&A with Kevin?
You're just tuning in, this is your show. You get to ask the questions. Keep them general. We're not doing mini readings right now, but ask any questions you would like about Ken, about spirituality. And just all you got to do is, whether you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, just type it in and I will get to your questions. We have all kinds of questions that people have sent us privately. So when I don't get questions from the chat, I do have a list. That's why I'm looking over this way, because I have a huge list of questions that other people that aren't watching have asked. So again, we're going to the next one here. I like this question. How do we know if we are channeling our soul, our higher self, our spirit guides, or angels?
Yeah, this basically encompasses all my workshops, levels 1, levels 2, levels 3, levels 4. To give you the gist of it. So a lot of people say, follow your intuition. Okay, sounds good in theory. But I remember my early years, that would just drive me nuts. It'd be like, follow your intuition, follow your gut, follow your intuition, follow your intuition. I'd be like, what the heck does that mean? Like, what does follow your intuition mean? And what does it really mean? So the real question does become, and that's where there's power in specifics, and power in breaking things down, and power in getting to know things on a very detailed, specific level. So I come from an IT background, and in an IT background, I everything has to be results oriented. You need to be very practical, pragmatic. You need to get results. So when I started out in the spirituality industry, I was like, okay, well, how can I make spirituality very practical? So I found that the best way to do that is to break things down and dissect them into very, individual components, so you get to know those different components. So the real question is, when someone says follow your intuition, what does it really mean? And so there's very specific activities I take my students through, which is I teach them how to channel their soul and get to know their soul really well. And it's very distinct. When you channel your soul, you'll know you're channeling your soul. And then another exercise and activity I take them through is channeling your higher self. And when you channel your higher self, you definitely know you're channeling your higher self and not a different aspect or component of you. Your higher self is very unique and distinct. And then I teach my students how to channel their spirit guides. And again, they're very unique, very specific energy signatures and component. Each one is totally different than each other. So then the real question is, well, when someone says follow your intuition, how do you know where you're getting the answers from? Is it coming from your soul? Is it coming from your higher self? Is it coming from one of your spirit guides? And if so, which one? Or is it coming from your soul and one of your spirit guides? Is it coming from your higher self and one of your spirit guides? Is it coming from your higher self and your soul? So it could be coming from multiple sources, including, could it be coming from angels or other sources like sprites, fairies, dragons, things like that? And we cover all that in detail in channeling level 3, where you get to know, again, what's the difference between a sprite or a crystal diva or a fairy or a dragon or an angel or any of those kinds of things out there. So again, you always know who you're channeling. And that's really important, because the biggest mistake I made, not mistake, but learning that I had to figure out on my own in my early days of my spiritual awakening in the early 2000s was I was channeling things I shouldn't be, but I didn't know any different. And sometimes they were getting me to do things that were really, really detrimental to me. Like just messing me up, messing with my psychology, my sleep habits, and getting me to do things like quit a job I shouldn't, or wreck a relationship that was perfectly fine, and just all that stuff. But I didn't know how to deal. I didn't know the difference. I didn't know that there was those kinds of things out there. So I had to learn the hard way. And so that's what I teach my students, is how to identify things that are not of the light, not in your highest and greatest good, and the things that are in your highest and greatest good, how to channel them and know who you're channeling, so you can follow their guidance and advice if appropriate. And if not, how to take care of those things that are not in your highest and greatest good.
That makes great sense.
Yeah.
Here's a great question from Anne Marie out of Montreal. It's a long one, so I'm just going to put it up. How does healing really work in general with your guides? Can we heal anything physically, mentally, emotionally, etc., if we ask our guides for their help? And how do we do so? Can we heal big traumas with just the help of our guides without learning all the modalities?
So the answer is yes, yes, and yes. Great question, Anne Marie. Okay, so this is actually a very complex question. So the question is, or it can be broken down again into pieces. So this is where breaking things down can really give you powerful. So one of the things you can do is you can heal yourself. And I've done it myself. I had a bum shoulder. I slipped on some ice here in Canada one time, and I got to work, and it was totally like I couldn't even lift my hand. And I'm a facilitator, a teacher at working for the government at the time, and I was writing things on the board, but I couldn't even lift my hand to write anything. Like, it was that bad. And I had three specialists, like two doctors and another specialist. All three of them said, I will never, ever be able to lift and have full motion of my arm ever again. And I said, forget that. I'm like, screw that. So what I did is, when I got home, and for like 2 weeks straight, I said, you are healed. You are healed. You are healed. You're fully healed. And sure enough, within about a month, I had 100% mobility. I could do pull-ups, push-ups, arm raises, you name it, all that stuff. Shoulder presses, upside down push-ups, you name it, like everything. And my arm is 100% healed. And then the same thing happened with actually the other shoulder a few years later, and I did the same thing. So you can heal yourself, and please do. Like, never underestimate the power of affirmative action, affirmative prayer, and all that stuff. So your spirit guides, I'm always careful about saying always and never. So what I have seen some people have is, some people of their spirit guides, sometimes I've had some of my clients' spirit guides who have like a guide who's really good at doing healing, and they can help with the healing. So oftentimes when I do healing on my clients, what I'll do is I'll see if any of my guides want to participate. I'll see if any of their guides want to participate. I definitely get my client to participate in it, because again, the self-healing that they can do. And then I check if there's any other sources of like angels, dragons, things like that, that want to come in and help with the healing process as well. And I teach all this in my level 4 channeling workshop on how to actually do this, and we actually practice it in the classes. So all my classes, everything I teach is all experiential. You don't just sit there and listen to me talk the whole time. It's actually going from one exercise to the next and the next, so you can learn how to do it. And what I do, so one of the tricks, it sounds good in theory, but I haven't found this to be true, is like a lot of the times, what I used to do in my early days is I would just say, okay, whatever guides and ancestors and angels and anyone of that's for the good, please come in and help with the healing. I haven't found that actually works. What I do find that does work is actually being very specific about who wants to come in, and during the healing process, which one wants to be active during that process, and then using channeling on how to take the healing process to way advanced levels, because you're channeling and working with them. So oftentimes, you're either you or your spirit guide or an angel or something like that needs you to be a conduit to do the healing, whether it's on yourself or on someone else. They need you to take this really high vibration energy and then make it at a level that's more usable for the human consumption, I guess you would say,
Yeah.
so that it's actually being used at that level. And then you do the healing on yourself, or you do the healing on others, but you're not just guessing. You're actually going, okay, in this guide right now, this part of the healing process. This specific guide is coming in to do this. How do they want me to do this? I'm channeling. Oh, they want me to do this, breathe into it, work through like maybe some Reiki energy or some other kinds of energy healing to do the full healing. So this is advanced stuff I'm talking about. And this is why I save it to level 4, because you get really, really good at channeling first before you do this really advanced stuff, which is really cool. Because when you do the healing training, like it's next level stuff. And then you, of course, same thing with angels and dragons and on and on. And even actually how to use crystals. I'll teach you how to use crystals and practice using crystals during the healing training as well, which is really cool.
Anne Marie says, I can't wait to learn how to differentiate what I'm channeling. Anne Marie, it's just amazing. You'll be blown away. I'm a big fan of people taking any kind of channeling. Obviously, with my relationship with Ken, I'll get out of the way so you can see. I have taken all of Ken's courses, so I highly recommend taking Ken's courses.
Try that again.
Oh, so there we go. Yeah, I have taken 4 of Ken's courses. I still haven't taken his animal communication. I was supposed to take it the last one he did, but unfortunately my health wasn't the greatest, but I will be taking it. Now, I wanted you to ask this one. I know you probably are going to talk to me about it after the show, but I want to make sure people understand when we're doing these shows, when I say you can ask anything, you can ask anything as long as it's what's in it for me, or what do you see for me? Or what are you getting for me? But Cindy wants to know, is all this stuff coming from your imagination?
So first of all, anyone watching, please say hi, say where you're from. Alana, hey, Alana, she's done some one-on-ones with me and other things with me. So hello.
Hi, Alana.
Mention where you're from, anyone watching. Yes, thank you, Alana. Appreciate it. Is it coming from your imagination? This is probably one of the biggest things that my new students struggle with. And that's why I specifically have activities targeted towards this. So is it my imagination? Now, when I first started doing this in 2004, I was like, am I making this up? Am I going crazy? I had no one to help me through those early years. And that's why I do what I do today, to give back so I can mentor people and help them through those early years so they don't have to struggle like I did for over a decade, losing my mind and going crazy and all that stuff. And also so that you can learn it properly and your growth isn't like this, it's like this. It's like accelerated, very quick, very fast. So when I first started doing this in the early 2000s, they didn't have the technology that they have now. Now we could literally set up camera systems, the highly sensitive camera systems in your room, and we could capture your spirit guides on camera. So if you feel your spirit guide, let's say on this side of you, it's not making it up. You're not like, it's not just you like creating things. They're actually, we have technology now that can capture your spirit guides on camera. You might have seen them on those ghost hunter kind of shows and things like that. The technology is still in its infancy, but over the next 5-10 years, they'll be able to capture your spirit guides in even more detail. So just know that what you are feeling, what you are noticing about their presence and about their personality and who they are, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, all that stuff is real and can finally now be proven with current technology, which is so exciting for me because I'm kind of a nerd or a geek that way. Like, again, being in the IT industry, it's so great to see technology finally catching up to this stuff. And
Yes.
Where back in the early 2000s, I'm like, no, your spirit guides are real. And they're like, sure, Ted, sure. And I'm like, no, they really are. And they really are. They really are. They're people like you and I, just in non-physical form, and they're just as real as you and I are, which is awesome.
Exactly. Rhonda from Grand Prairie, easy for me to say, way up north Alberta, wants to say hi. And Danielle Renee Donnelly from Alberta. Where in Alberta are you from, Danielle?
Hi, Rhonda.
And Anne-Marie, you're asking some amazing questions. So I'm just going to if anybody else has questions, please type them in. We'll get to them. I love this question, and Ken will know why I love this question. Questions about the workshops. Each level is on an intensive weekend during 2 days. What happens between levels? Is there a group where we can share what we practice and our experiences?
Yeah, so I have a private group. So two things. One is I always recommend that whether it's through after a one-on-one or in a group setting is after a workshop is you always take the stuff that you learned, review it, go through it, and practice what you've learned in your everyday life. Because the biggest thing that I've had happen to me is I've taken these amazing workshops and then I leave all like fired up and excited and woo, like floating on a cloud. And then a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever, and then I haven't really used it. But if I use it, and then I had to kind of learn that the hard way, is that if I start using the skills right after that class, right after that workshop, then I actually am more likely to sustain it long term. So really, please do use what I teach you. I'm not one of those teachers where I have like this scarcity mindset where I'm like, if you see me do something and you're like, how does Ken do that? I'll teach you that. And
Yeah.
how does Ken do this? I'll teach you this. Well, how does Ken do that? I'll teach you that as well. I'll teach you everything I know because I don't have the scarcity mindset about, I have to keep stuff to myself because what if people like, no, I'm like, let me teach you everything I know about this stuff so you can stand on my shoulders and do even greater things than me. And I want that because the reason I'm doing this is to make this world a better place by teaching people how to channel. And I want you to really learn and master these advanced channeling techniques so you can go out there and do what you're really meant to do. So what I do recommend is after my workshops, practice the skills that you've learned in level one right away until you get to level two, and do that over those weeks. And then when you get to level two, practice everything you learned in level two over those weeks until you get to level three, and so on and so on. And I do have a private group, but you have to take the channeling level one workshop for you to have access to that group. And that's a really safe environment because everyone in that group is a graduate of at least channeling level one. So everyone's on the same page. They know what you're talking about. What if you have any questions, any concerns, any things you want to talk about. So you'll get that information at the end of channeling level one, where you can join that private group. And I have a whole bunch of other groups that after level three you can join. So there's like the 6-month strategic channeling program, and then I have a master channeling mastermind group, and all sorts of other cool things like that. That's later, but that's where we do really advanced cool stuff. So
Very cool. Very, very cool. You were talking about healing, and this one is always, I've always questioned this. Let me click that button so you can see it. Can I heal others without permission?
yeah, so in my channeling level two workshop, I have a whole bunch of sections on ethics and spirituality, ethics and channeling. Um, Let me make it very clear. Let's say somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, my husband, this about him, that about him, this about him, that about him. Can you do any healing on him?" Guess what the answer is?
No.
No. It's a very clear no. Why? Because they have this magical, amazing thing, just like you and I do. It's called what? Free will. So he
Yes.
has free will. He has not come to me and asked me for permission. So let's just play this out. Let's say, for example, somebody comes to me and says, "My husband this, my husband that, can you do healing on him?" So I go ahead and do healing on him. And then he gets wind of it and finds out. Guess who? If he doesn't, he's like, who the heck are you? Why are you doing healing on me? I didn't give you permission. What do you think you're doing? And he starts coming to me all upset. And he has every right to be.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. Why am I doing healing on this third party person when he has an explicit? So one of the things I tell my clients, if I say to them, I say, okay, well, your husband's not here right now, so if he would like healing or channeling training or anything like that, then what he can do is he can go ahead and book a session with me. And then if he does, I'll do whatever, like all the healing and everything, because he's asked for explicit permission and he's booked a session and all that. But because he's not here right now, why don't we just focus on you and what healing we can do around you in regards to your husband? So we're not going to do any healing on him. We'll do any healing of you in regards to him. So make
And
that
a
very
lot of
clear.
times that'll help him. Healing yourself helps people all the way around you because you become a better person because of it.
So Kevin, I was reading this book one time, right? And I raised my daughter as a full-time single father since she was 5 years old, and now she's in her 20s. And I read this one book when she was like maybe about 6 or 7 or whatever, and she was really kind of being a little snot. She was acting up and all this stuff. And then I read this one book, and it said that if you want your kids to change yourself. I'm like,
Yes.
what is this? This is crap. That doesn't work. This is bull BS, whatever, all this. And I'm like, that's not true at all. So I put the book aside. I didn't want to, like, I just threw it down on the ground. I didn't want to read it anymore. But then a week went by. My daughter was still acting up. 2 weeks went by. My daughter was still acting up. I'm like, you know what? Maybe there's some truth. Like, that's where humility comes in, like having
Yes.
humility and just look, okay, Ken, breathe. Maybe there's some truth to this. So you know what? I'm like, this is probably bogus. It's probably not true at all, but I'll give it a shot. So sure enough, all I did for the next few weeks was focus on myself 100%. Anytime I got upset, I took a deep breath. I asked myself, what is it inside that needs to be healed or cleared? I did some clearing. I would ask other healers to help from time to time. I would, do all that stuff. And sure enough, about 2 to 3 weeks later, my daughter was a completely changed person. I'm like, what? This really works. No way. Does this really work? And sure enough, it does. Like, it really does. So if you want others to change, start with changing yourself. Start with healing yourself. Start with like the inner
Yes.
work, the self-love, the self-care. And a little tip on that as well. What I've noticed over the years is that there's some things that I can heal myself, and there's some things that I need other healers to help me with. So again, with channeling, I can know when those times are, and having enough humility to admit that, okay, this is one of those circumstances where I need external help, and I do. I go for healing on a regular basis. I see psychologists, and I see healers and therapists, and you name it, because I need healing. And there was a thing inside of me that way back in the day when I was like, okay, one day when I'm fully healed, one day when I'm there, one day when I'm fully healed. And then like 10 years went by, and I'm still working through my crap and my stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe there is no there.
What
Maybe
is
I
that one day?
maybe I never will be fully healed. Yeah, maybe there is that, like that one day. And so what if healing is just a lifelong journey? Can it
What
be okay
if
with
that's
that?
the reason we're here?
That's right. That's right. And it's part of our evolution. Exactly, Kevin. You got it. So once I accepted that, everything changed, and my healing progress just skyrocketed. And I look forward to, within reason, as much as I try to, I look forward to the healing that I need to do inside. And don't get me wrong, I do believe in miracles. I do believe like this stuff
Oh
can be
gosh, yes.
healed. But if it takes me a lifetime, that's okay as well. I'm okay either way. So, but I
Now,
do.
do you believe energy healing replaces modern medicine?
So the answer to that is there are some things in my experience that spiritual healing can do that modern medicine can't, and then there's some things that modern Western medicine can do that spiritual healing can't, and sometimes you need both. So in
Yes.
Europe and other countries around the world, they'll like say,
They've
let's say
already
there's a really
meshed up.
bad, someone gets in a really bad car accident, and in the surgery room, as the doctors are sewing up the patient, there's energy healers around them, putting their energetic body back together and all that, working alongside with the surgeons in the operation room. So there is a time and place for both. Just knowing the difference, and a lot of times, more times than not, it's a combination of both.
North America seems to be way behind on that
That's why
whole.
we're here, and that's why we need more people that are enlightened
Yes.
and awakened to this stuff, so we can make it more. And I do. I have quite a few of my students who are actually now going into hospitals, and they're doing meditation with the patients.
Slowly, more and
They're going
more.
into hospitals. They're doing Reiki on their patients, and it's becoming more accepted and welcomed.
Yes.
And that's how a lot of them, they get their practice. They do groups. They do seniors homes. They do hospitals. They do recoveries. So it's coming. Like, it's happening, and that's why
Yeah.
we need more people like you guys watching to do your part. And by having channeling, you can get guidance along your path as to know how to make the most out of your life and your purpose and what you're really meant
Well,
to
and
do.
I think the more we talk about it and bring it to mainstream, that the more it's going to become accepted.
So
Um,
thank you for bringing this up, Kevin. This is something really important. Those of you watching, is back in the early 2000s, I was always afraid of what people would think, about me being spiritual and believe in
Yes.
spirituality and believing in spirit guides and past lives and all that stuff. And I always I cared so much about what other people thought that I literally hid it and I didn't share it except for very rare occasions. But then I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what, screw it. Like, I don't care what other people think anymore. There are always going to be those people who are going to, those naysayers, people say I'm making it up, whatever, and it's not true, it's not real. But, I've helped so many thousands of people out of this that if I ask myself, I don't want to be one of those selfish people that cares so much about myself and what people might think that I'm going to keep it to myself, because look at how many people can benefit from learning to channel. And so now on all my social media sites, everywhere you see me, it's like channelinginc.com, channelinginc.com, channelinginc.com. I don't care. Everyone can hear about this, my family or friends or naysayers or anybody. It's channeling. It's all about channeling and spirituality. And I love channeling. I love spirituality. I love to teach people to do. And more importantly is, if I can encourage and inspire my audience, you people watching, to go and stop hiding this stuff, but actually let people know what you're passionate about. Let people know what you do, because there's people out there that need you. They need your services. They need your skill sets. They maybe need you to be vulnerable and just share what you're passionate about. And so that'll give them permission, because you're going to be able to touch people that I might not get to. So it's kind of that whole ripple in the pond thing, or butterfly effect, or whatever you want to call it. So please,
Yes.
please, please share what you're really meant to do. And spirituality rocks. And spirituality, Kevin, is meant to be what?
Meant to be fun.
Fun, right? So keep it light, keep it fun, and that is attractive as well when people see how you're having fun with spirituality.
Well, I always tell people there's a time and place for spirituality to be serious. And I've done sessions where I always keep a box of Kleenex close by. I'm an emotional guy to begin with. And anybody who's done sessions with me, when we get emotional, I'm the first one usually to get emotional. But there's other sessions where I literally have tears because I'm laughing so much. Because you got to remember, the souls that come through, whether it be your spirit guides or loved ones on the other side, they're just you and I without the flesh and bone. So they're still funny.
Oh yeah.
And the best thing is, when they're over there, they have no filter. They absolutely have no filter. They don't care what they say. And some of the things that they come out with, and you're just like, I can't say that.
Yeah, I've had to watch my language a few times on this show.
Oh, yes. Quite often. I'm always asking my clients, will it bug you if I swear? Because your guides they swear. I'm sorry, that's just the way it happens. Anyways, we're getting, wow, I can't believe we're already 53 minutes into this, Ken.
Ask me another question.
What is Ken up to going into the end of 2022, going into 2023? What's on Ken's agenda?
Please stay tuned. I do have a whole bunch of things I'm working on for my business for channeling, because I want everyone to get access to channeling. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be doing more recordings on purpose, so you can purchase basically these recordings, these workshops, these trainings, no matter where you are in the world, at your leisure. You can watch them, you can pause them, you can record them, you can take notes and jot them down. And because one of the feedbacks I've been having is that sometimes people in different time zones, they're having trouble accessing that time zone because it might be the middle of the night or whatever. So please stay tuned to channelinginc.com for those announcements. I already have one of my workshops, my intro channeling workshop, as a recorded video. You can go to my channelinginc.com website, click on intro channeling workshop, and it's up there. You can download it, or not. You can view it and watch it, record it, pause it, or not record it, but pause it, and you can go through the exercises and the activities. And all my workshops are always experiential, so it's not just, again, it's not going to be a lecture style. It's actually going to be taking you through one exercise after the next, the entire training. So that's coming up.
Very cool.
I am looking at developing and expanding on my healing training, because I've been a healer right from the very beginning. And I've taken dozens and stacks of different healing modalities. Plus, I've also developed my own healing modalities. So that will all be coming up like in the 2023. So I'm really super excited about that. Stay tuned.
Nice. What is
All
your
sorts of
next
good things.
level one? When is your next level one coming up? Do you have that handy?
January 14th and 15th. And if you go to channelinginc.com and you click on the channeling level one workshop, yes, there's still room. So if you would like to attend, and if that date doesn't work for you, the next date is just below that. And that's the next one coming up. So whatever works for you. And if you have any questions at all, private message me. Get me. Just go ahead. I do make myself available to my students. So please do message me. I would have any. I can answer any questions for you.
Excellent. We're going to have one last question because Graham jumped in. Graham, all the
Woo-hoo.
way from Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. He says, "Hey guys, how do you work through fear of authority and speaking your own truth when you are scared?"
The biggest one I'm getting for you, Graham, in particular, is there's a strategy that I developed. It's called attrition. So what does attrition mean? So attrition means the analogy that I heard way back when is this military guy was talking about where they wear down their enemy over many months. So for example, in the Iraqi war, what they did is they bombed the Iraqi army for months, like 2 months straight, every single day, several times a day, so that they couldn't sleep. They couldn't. They went crazy. They went senile. They started fighting in amongst each other after several weeks because again, no sleep, and you go crazy with no sleep. And so they wore them down through attrition. And then when the ground military came in, they just wiped them out because they didn't even stand a chance because they were so worn out over time. So I use that same kind of concept whenever I have a fear of something. So let's say I have a fear of heights. What do? I go to tall buildings, I go to high peaks, I go to like lots of tall places over and over and over until I wear that fear down through attrition. Okay, so through attrition.
Nice.
And a lot of you don't know this, but I actually had when I was in grade 5, the teacher asked me to come up in front of the classroom and read like a little Shakespeare poem to a little like sonnet or whatever to the class. It was literally like 5 lines long. And I had to just stand up in front of the class and say it to them. Well, I went up in grade 5. I stood up in front of the class and I went like this and I looked up and I completely froze and I could not say a word. And I started getting like completely embarrassed. My face turned beet red, being a blonde guy and all that. I just went completely red. I started crying and I ran out of the
Oh,
classroom. It was devastating. So then my
yeah.
teacher said, okay, Ken, you need to do this in order to pass. So come back again and try it again. So I came back the next day and I stood up in front of the classroom. And these are all people I know. And there's only like maybe 20 people in the classroom. But I stood up in front of that classroom and I looked down at my piece of paper and then I looked up and I completely froze again. And I just went beet red. I
Oh
started
no.
crying, and then I ran out of the room again. And then he said, "Okay." So my teacher pulled me aside later on in the day, and he said, "Okay, Ken, you can come to my office after class, and you can say this, a few lines to me, and then I can't give you great marks, but I can at least give you something." So I did. I went to his private office after the school, and I was just him and I. We stood up in front of the class, or in front of him. I stood up and I looked at my paper and I looked at him, and then the same thing happened, and I completely froze. I couldn't say a word. I started crying and I sat down and I said, "I don't know what's the matter with me. I just can't do this. If you have to fail me, go ahead and fail me." And that's where I started from. That's where I started from, Kevin. I could not,
That's
like,
the
I
way to do
totally
it.
froze in public speaking and all that. It was like my worst fear ever. So what did I do? Instead of giving up and saying I could never do that, I did the opposite. I started talking to people, random people, individuals, one on one, just anyone. I started talking to small groups of people, and then eventually, over many years, about 5 years, I would start to talk to bigger groups, like over 100 people. And then now I've talked to groups of over 1,000 people. That's how many people I've talked to. How did I do it? Not by accident, through attrition, through doing something you're afraid of doing over and over and over and over again until that fear subsides. It might still be there, but it's way less than it used to be.
Yes.
And it's through a strategy that I've created called overcoming fear through attrition.
Nice. Nice.
So, Graham, I hope this helps you. What do you do when you have a fear of authority? Go to talk to a whole bunch, and I have the same complex. I see a police officer and I'm just like, woo! But what do I do now? I see an officer like at an event or like a festival or something like that, and I go up and I say, "Hi, thank you very much for what you do and your service. I appreciate you keeping us safe." And I realize he's just a human, just like you and I, and it's fine now, somewhat. I still struggle with
Very
it. So.
cool. Ken, this has been an incredible quick hour and a super year. I'm going to just go up here. I want to
Yes.
thank you for hosting or letting me host this show for the last year. It's been super cool. I hope we can continue it going through 2023.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
Kevin, I want to appreciate you. You've been a great, amazing host throughout this entire year
Uh,
of the Ask Ken show. It's just been phenomenal. Isn't it been fun? Like people
I
get
have
to
so
write
much
in,
fun doing this show.
ask questions. It's so like upbeat, enthusiastic, and it's channeled. It's spirituality at its finest. It's just so wonderful. So thank you for hosting it, Kevin. Thank you for putting in the time.
You're more than welcome. Here's to bigger and better things in 2023. People, stay tuned because we are taking the show to the next level in 2023. You're going to might see a bit of a change in 2023, but I look
Good
forward
thing.
to it. I guess our next show will be. I'm just pulling up my calendar here. Do you know the date off the top of your head?
Fourth Wednesday of January.
So that would be oh, you're good. The 25th of January,
Yeah.
2023, 7
So
p.m. Mountain Time. Pay
So for those of you
attention.
watching, it's always the fourth Wednesday of every month is when we do the Ask Ken show. You're welcome to ask questions. You can send them to me, send them to Kevin. Kevin and I have a tracking sheet that we track any questions. But even better yet is tune in live, and then you can ask your questions live, and I will channel the answers for you. It's been a pleasure and honor having everyone with me and Kevin over these months. So we do appreciate all your like. I'm just so grateful, and you know what? People always like 2023 is it what's going to happen, all this and that. I always go into the beginning of every year wanting the best, shooting for the best, trying to keep the momentum going, keep the inspiring people, keep it positive, keep it fun, keep it light. This we don't have to get in all this doom and gloom. Let's just keep doing what we're doing and spreading that light throughout the world. That's why we're called light workers. Let's do our part and spread that light.
Excellent. Till the next month, everybody have a happy new year. Stay safe. We'll talk